This video is brought to you by the Ridge Wallet. No! This wasn't part of the plan. This isn't supposed to be some running gag or an actual ongoing series on the channel. When I made that old Uncharted video titled, "Remember Tom Holland's new Uncharted movie?" it was supposed to just be a one-time format with a trending celebrity, like remember Ryan Reynolds' new gaming movie, or do you remember that crazy Pug trailer, or something like that. And though I think it's fairly common knowledge at this point that Tom Holland's agent is a little trigger-happy on getting Tom his typecasted protagonist roles, what with Spider-Man, Onward, Spies in Disguise, and of course the Uncharted adaptation, now by technicality there's a whole new one to add to the list. Remember Tom Holland's new Legend of Zelda movie. Though I should emphasize that this is on a technicality, as there is a tad bit of misinformation going on around this subject, but hey, that's why I'm here, to tell you all about those film projects that you probably didn't even realize existed. I'm like the pre-marketing for films before even their teaser trailers release. Or I just spend way too much time scrolling through film articles and stalking Wikipedia pages. Whatever the case, here we are again with a familiar looking topic with a whole new slick of paint. And I mean that almost literally. In case you didn't notice, the thumbnail for this video is a carbon copy of my Uncharted one, but with my girlfriend's wonderful artistic hand giving us a stylized reimagining. It was already enough of a challenge to create a Tom Holland Nathan Drake image that doesn't actually exist, let alone trying to stuff him into an iconic green tunic. He hasn't worn one before. Regardless, if this is going to be a trend with Tom Holland, which I'm almost undoubtedly sure is going to be the case, then get used to this pose. I'll be sure to make a series on the channel if you force my hand. But beyond all of my ramblings, yes, this is some real news, to a certain degree. With the likes of Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog finally breaching into the video game movie adaptation tier list at an actual successful level compared to everything before it, it seems to be the case now that there is a solid movement of games getting their movie adaptations, now with the tech and experience to actually make it good. I mean, any glance on my channel and you can see pretty much evidence of this everywhere. They're making Minecraft, FNAF, there's a new Mortal Kombat, Lara Croft is returning, Uncharted of course, Cyberpunk 2077's getting an anime adaptation, Cuphead's getting an animated Netflix TV series, and even originals like Free Guy are clearly leaning into that same market. And though Nintendo has been festering on a Mario movie with Illumination for years upon years at this point, it seems that they too are slowly starting to come out of their shell. Detective Pikachu likely impressed them, and Mario is presumably going well with how tightly knit Shigeru Miyamoto and other Nintendo representatives are able to tailor the film during its production. And when thinking of another one of Nintendo's unfailable IPs, of course the first thing that comes to mind is The Legend of Zelda. Now, Zelda isn't entirely new to film and TV adaptations. Sure, it hasn't had its own Super Mario Bros. Movie, but it did have a 13-episode cartoon series back in 1989, loosely based off of the first Legend of Zelda game. It's not much, but it does go to show that the game franchise isn't entirely left in the dark when it comes to switching storytelling mediums, though that is all there really is to their history here. And really, that's completely understandable. Back in the 80s, games looked like this, and extracting a cinematic storytelling experience was something way harder with the technology of just the NES or something like that. But with Zelda being an iconic statue of the video game world, as it aged with the technology, the need for a cinematic experience was well equipped to be covered within the games themselves, be it just from the moments of not controlling Link in the 2D games to the full-on cutscenes of the later 3D games, many of which are likely saturating the content in the background of this video. These are all film and television moments enough. And even the crappier ones from the ancient consoles of spin-offs that we don't really try and talk about all that much of the past, still give us somewhat an enjoyable experience that doesn't clearly need to have such a big budget as a full filmic representation piece. And hey, if you haven't already, do subscribe! There was an attempt to do a reference with a spin attack there, but I don't know if it really translated. Either way, there's a million adaptations out there being made, there always is apparently, and I'm pretty much planning to cover all of them at some point. There are 2 more that I've got planned just this year, and then we'll continue afterwards anyway, so if you want to see them firsthand, then you better subscribe so you can tag along. On top of that, it is a Monday, we are streaming today. It's probably the usual Gotta Catch 'Em All series with Pokemon, but also tomorrow on Tuesday, when I don't usually upload, I am still streaming. It's a bit more, I guess, secretive on that front, and we're doing variety streams, so we're gonna go and try a speedrunning stream. I don't know what we're speedrunning yet, because this is pre-recorded and I haven't properly planned and prepared it yet, but it is ready by the time you're watching this probably, so come join us tomorrow when we speedrun something hopefully quick and easy and just see how an amateur does it. Maybe I'll even wear this shirt. Maybe it should be a Zelda game. Is there a short Zelda game I can tackle? We'll work it out in the future. But of course, with this new wave of gaming adaptations, things are changing. Nintendo's trust in the industry after their brutal betrayal in the 80s has slowly been growing back, and though Nintendo's pick for who should handle their properties is very narrow in order to reduce problems, the two they have actually picked to go with lead to a somewhat understandable, reliable foundation for their projects. Obviously, I've already mentioned Illumination before for their Mario movie, which is sure to probably make some of you pull your hairs out at just the thought of it. Even still, it's clear that the numbers work out for them, so I'm not surprised Nintendo is investing over there. But going on the assumption that Nintendo would be looking at other avenues simultaneously instead of waiting for that singular Mario project to reach public release, it's long been reported that another collaborative effort has stitched onto Nintendo's whitelist. I mean, for The Legend of Zelda, they're not looking for another quirky animation. This ain't just another Mario. No, of course, the next bigwig would be the almost monopolizing giant of streaming services, Netflix. Sure, their market is slowly being gnawed away by oversaturated competition from every angle, but they're still an iconic name nonetheless. And when it comes to bringing games over to the platform, they've got a pretty good track record in places. I mean, there's the animated Castlevania series that's been on my watchlist for like months at this point that's been blowing people away, as well as the trendingly massive phase that was the live-action Witcher with Henry Cavill. Clearly, these guys know what they're doing and have certainly made a name for themselves enough to be trusted with yet another juggernaut of an IP. Which of course finally brings us directly to the project at hand, the official Netflix adaptation of Nintendo's The Legend of Zelda. But here's where the technicality comes in. It's all a lie. This video is advertised as Tom Holland's new Zelda movie. All the news articles talking about this project always refer to Tom Holland as the new Link, but in actuality, it's not true. Yet. Or possibly at all. This project is said to be in very early on in development, and there are all sorts of rumours and behind-the-scenes sources spreading information about the project. We'll be going through all there is to know about the film during these early stages, but Tom Holland isn't actually a confirmed casted actor on the project at all. In fact, though I struggle to find it through the algorithmic mess that is Instagram, Tom Holland reportedly commented on a fan submission regarding this project collaboration as being fake. And that's because, as far as he's concerned, it is fake. He's not in the movie because it was just a leaked preference of who they would choose. And speaking of preference, why have such an old school wallet design from like the 90s when you can have the Ridge wallet? It's light, sleek, and industrial, easily fitting into any of your pockets without that stupid bulge, and can do so while still holding up to 12 cards, plus room for cash. I was told I could show off my old wallet for comparison, but literally I've just had a pocket. That's not a good idea at all, so what an improvement, eh? Each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty, so you could carry one of these for life. And it even has a 45-day money-back guarantee if you find it's not your thing. They're just that confident. Or hey, maybe it's the perfect Christmassy kind of gift. So for all the more benefits, get 10% off with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/Dazz. That's ridge.com/Dazz. And use the code, you'll never guess, Dazz. Now then, let's get back to the Zelda talk, shall we? What's really going on here is that the ideas for this Netflix Legend of Zelda adaptation are still being written up. This is of course the details for absolutely everything. The story, the theming, the runtime, the location, and of course the actors. But nevertheless, the kind of info being discussed at these closed-door tabletop meetings is being outed by some sources in the industry that are just, I guess, doing their thing for a little bit of article marketing. Or I guess hunting for that next big clickbait, however you want to see it. But here's the thing, I saw this news all over my feeds a little bit ago, and I'm sure a good chunk of you too saw this wave of insider knowledge, and though we've already established the Tom Holland fake out, the whole actually digs a whole lot deeper. The main sources for this specific piece of detail come from WGTC, or We Got This Covered, a film and TV news website. Notably, two particular members of the site, Grace Randolph and Caleb Williams. Now, usually when I read these things, I don't pay attention to the names most of the time, and it's not really an important detail in the whole spectrum of things. But upon seeing this specifically, I realized I actually recognized Grace, being the reaction YouTuber who is constantly the first one to cover some trailer. And digging further into her work and the internet's reception of the website as a whole, things don't look too positive. with many corners of the internet discarding all of their works for the overabundance of just completely wrong rumors and speculation. And while the articles write about how these sources are the same ones who predicted a couple of rumors accurately, like The Witcher live action or something, when you throw everything at the wall, inevitably something is going to stick. I mean, one look at their website tells me more than enough about the reliability of this information. Though this minusculely trusted rumor says that Tom Holland is the kind of typecast wanted for the production and not someone actually assigned to it yet, it has still led to some discussion over the choices of that kind of typecast. Would Link be mute in such a production, especially considering Tom's more comedic dialogue-y talents? I mean, is that really a match? Well, we're actually going to bypass all of this discussion because the truth of this production only continues to fall further from grace. No pun intended. This is all still rumored content on whether the project even exists, as both Netflix and Nintendo have not made any statements officially confirming even the existence of this development. But that doesn't necessarily mean all is doomed. After all, the history of Netflix collaborating with Nintendo is, in fact, existent. But for that, we'll have to turn back the clocks a chunk to actually find it. The chance of a Netflix adaptation is still on the table, but not as we might first imagine it. The two companies have been in talks in the past, most notably from a service offering at the very least, as back in 2011 the Netflix app was officially installed as an open option on the Nintendo 3DS, and skipping forward ahead a couple of years, there were legitimate talks of an actual Legend of Zelda movie. In 2013, series director Aonuma stated that if development of a film began, the company would want to use the opportunity to embrace audience interaction in some capacity, always taking the game-focused approach, clearly. More specifically, Aonuma said that it was something that he and Mr. Miyamoto talked about, saying, if we were to make a Zelda title, if we had an interest in doing that, I think really what would be most important to us is to be able to play with the format of a movie, make it more interactive, like you're able to take your 3DS into the theater, and that leads you into participating in it somehow. We wouldn't want to make it the same as any other movie. We want to somehow change what a movie is. Now that honestly isn't too surprising considering Nintendo's kind of work ethic, always pushing for innovation and change with each new installment. And though this was just hypothetical talkings of the director, one could quite easily push the Netflix narrative further here with them cementing several projects as using these interactive sub-film mechanics. Most notably being Black Mirror's spin-off film Bandersnatch, playing with the mechanics of choosing pathways the protagonist takes on and witnessing the consequences of each choice. And hey, they were already pretty close-knit to the theming of video games there, weren't they? Other reasonings that have recently sparked these kind of rumors to come to fruition now is because of the fact that The Legend of Zelda will be celebrating its 35th anniversary in 2021, which of course will always build up hype for some new secret project to be in the works alongside all of their gaming plans as well. Though actually, while this Tom Holland add-on is the most recent rumor to this project's history, there were more connections brewing back a few years ago with the executive producer of Netflix Castlevania series, Adi Shankar, who after finishing Castlevania tweeted an announcement of moving to work with an iconic Japanese gaming company to adapt one of their iconic video game series into a series. Everyone of course jumped to Zelda being that exact thing, though with a little bit of time passing, it's looking much more likely that they were actually referring to Capcom and the Devil May Cry series, which, my god, they're making a Devil May Cry series too? And a Hyper Light Drifter series? And another Assassin's Creed? I mean, I guess that one I kind of expected, but even still, my fingers are gonna fall off from all this content. But okay, let's return a little bit to reality and one of the official business murmurings of what's been said generally about the whole idea of exploring films. For a start, Nintendo's recent investor report saw the company confirm the Super Mario Bros. Flick will get released in 2022 from Illumination and Universal Pictures, and that, quote, we have already embarked on multiple other visual content expansion projects and are pursuing further opportunities. Well, doesn't that sound a whole lot more real? And actually, there's another quote from the president of Nintendo that goes into it further as such. As we shared previously, the Super Mario movie is being financed by Nintendo as well as Universal Pictures, and we are actively involved in planning, development, and production. Going forwards, visual content expansion initiatives may not be limited to film. The scale of our investments will be varied based on the type of project, but we will continue to invest in these entertainment expansion initiatives to increase the number of people who have access to our IP. Wow, that sounds like all sorts of stuff. Sure, films and TV shows, but comics and spin-offs too. There's absolutely an open option there for these rumors to be trying to fill in. So moving on, I've still got a whole collection of old rumours all wanting to be heard to fill this hole, but do continue to take it with a grain of salt. Think of it more like a prompt for a future discussion on the idea. Going back to We Got This Covered, they purported that Netflix was discussing both a movie and a TV show based on the video game, but didn't clarify anything further than that. Similarly, there were some claims on this project that suggested that those involved with the production were seeking to use two specific games in the series, Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, as a plot foundation, which, while a bit of an odd pairing, there's certainly a connection between the two in the official timeline canon, so they'd say, though Breath of the Wild is kinda connected to all of them. The same source said that the movie would mostly use Twilight Princess as the basis for its story, while just mixing in a few elements from Breath of the Wild, so don't expect a straight adaptation of either game, they say. Which sounds strange to me. Sure, these two games are my personal favourites in the series, but when picturing a project like this, I'd always assume a more original approach would be taken for something like this. Who knows? Another source claimed that the development of this adaptation started back in 2015. There, according to the Wall Street Journal, just like the Lord of the Rings franchise, this new episodic adventure series would include swords and sorcery, but unlike Game of Thrones, it will be a bloodless affair and is being called lighthearted and very kid-friendly. Duh. During 2015, it was said to be in early development, still seeking writers, though the exact same thing was also said all these years later, so the fidelity of this information seems awfully shallow. As a whole other spin on the idea, Brie Larson has shown an interest in many of Nintendo's works, and though We Got This Covered wants to tell me that she's been discussing it with the big N herself, I couldn't find any legit claims of that. And as a whole other spanner in the works, there is an IMDb page for a Zelda production, but I mean, it's IMDb, so it's not always to be trusted. There, supposedly, it's currently filming, okay. Nintendo is listed to be the production company, Netflix is the distributor, and the description states it's an animated anthology series based upon several of the games in Nintendo's Legend of Zelda franchise. I don't really expect this to be true, but supposedly it's been up for 2 years now without any kind of takedown, so I guess that's a little sus. And that's the end of my notes. You may have heard about this wave of news and rumors, but unfortunately, that's all it is. I guess you could kind of take this as a debunking video. That's what happens when I realize it's fake halfway into the script. Maybe this thing is true to some capacity. There's been no official announcements from either business giant, but catching things early has been done before. As for what it would actually entail is a whole can of worms of its own. Many of the article authors suggested covering each game through separate seasons or adapting one specific game's story, whilst I'm imagining a more original kind of take inspiration from everything approach. And then there's the question of if it's even animated or live action. When I think of the greatest Zelda fan shots I've seen, it would have to be this 3D animated Majora's Mask tribute that just blows my mind every time I see it on YouTube, but a live action rendition would admittedly be quite fun to see. And how Link should go about presenting himself is a whole rabbit hole of a debate on its own, because sometimes he's mute, sometimes he does talk but we don't hear it, and sometimes he talks. All of them are kind of controversial. I'll leave you guys to extrapolate just what kind of Zelda production you want to see. A 2-hour film or a 3-season TV show. Whatever the case, just don't believe everything you read on the internet. And if I'm actually wrong and WGTC have had pinpoint accuracy this entire time, then oops! The reputation certainly had me fooled. For now though, I'm gonna end it off here. My name's been Dazz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit. Thanks for making it to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. I know lately I've been doing very long green screen sessions, so I'll try and keep this brief. Thanks, and yeah, come see the stream, we'll do some more Pokemon. I actually really enjoy, I have such a craving to get on and get all of them, or, you know, try an actual series with a story arc of my own in a sense. I'm rambling on again, I just can't stop with these things. Come join us, and join us for speedrunning tomorrow. Zip.